What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, and this is the 2023 WWE Draft Night 1. I was going to do this all as one pod, but I've got enough to talk about here that I think we can do today, and do Monday at some point, and then next week we'll have the preview for Backlash, and it's just going to be a different kind of week, but I think I warned you about that last week. SmackDown in Corpus Christi, Texas, which I know they mentioned at some point in the night, so apparently it had some significance, but I totally forget what that significance is, if I'm completely honest with you. Kicked it off right off the bat. I'm not going to talk much about the matches that were on the show tonight, because the matches that were on the show tonight really didn't matter. And let me say this. I'm going to say this, and maybe they'll change my mind on Monday. This draft wasn't about people, if that makes any sense. It wasn't about individuals. It wasn't about anything. I mean, the Cody Rhodes fans are going to disagree with me on that one. This draft was about factions. It was about where titles are going to be. And I mean, for anybody that still cares, it was about who's going to get called up from NXT. And I'm happy with what we got so far. I'm not going to lie. Triple H came out right off the bat to talk about the draft, talk about the rules, go over the fact that, you know, there's some that are going to be available in a general pool tonight. There's some that are going to be in a general pool on Monday night on Raw. I don't really like that, because it sort of takes away from the whole, like, prestige of the number one choice, because it's not the number one choice. It's the number one choice out of the half that you were allowed to bid on that evening. And then he mentions also that there are certain select NXT talent that are available for draft as well. Didn't say who they were, which I thought was a nice touch. And we had this whole idea. It wasn't as bad as the Fox and the USA robots a couple of years ago, but there's a SmackDown team, there's a Raw team, and intermittently throughout the night they're going to come out and they're going to make some announcements. And what we didn't know at the time, and I'll get into it later on, is the people making these announcements weren't out there trying to be like authority figures. They were just like guest, like MCs almost. Like, hey, they asked me to come out and give this information. Except for the first round, which was given by Triple H himself. Now, I'm going to talk a lot about the factions and what they did with the factions. The number one choice for SmackDown, and it's not really that surprising, was Roman Reigns. He's still the undisputed Universal WWE Galactic Champion, or whatever you want to say. But here's the thing. They didn't group the bloodline together. And I know everybody said this already. I know everybody said this when the lists were leaked before SmackDown. But Roman, Solo Sikoa, and Paul Heyman were considered a unit, and then the Usos were considered a unit. Spoiler alert, I think they're getting drafted to Raw, but we will talk about that later on. So Roman, Solo, and Heyman get, I say drafted, they stay on SmackDown. That's the other thing, too, like just announce changes. You don't need to announce the people that are staying in the same place. Obviously, Triple H goes on to explain that, yes, this does in fact mean the new WWE World Heavyweight Championship, that gorgeous belt that everybody hates because they don't like fun, is going to live on Raw. As is the number two choice, Cody Rhodes. To all the Cody folks out there, go fuck yourself. That's it. I'm not even getting into the diatribe about this. He's going to be given the flagship show. He's going to be given the keys to the car on the WWE's flagship show. And you're still going to find a way to make that a bad thing. So you guys can all... Off is in the direction I would like you to fuck. Because your boy is going to be the head champion of the main show. And you're still bitching. Because you want this weird little, hey, we've got an AEW guy in WWE, so really if he wins, it's a win for AEW. No, it's not. And by the way, CM Punk was backstage the other week, so let's nip that in the bud right then. So, Roman stays on SmackDown, Cody stays on Raw, which means the World Heavyweight Championship also now finds itself a home on Raw. Hopefully that doesn't mean that they're going to put it on a red belt, but we don't need to worry about that right now. Speaking of colors of belts, the next choice is Bianca Belair, Jesus goddamn Christ, being drafted to SmackDown as the Raw Women's Champion. Which only lends credence to my argument from WrestleMania that nobody will pick up and nobody will treat as anything because Bianca Belair is protected by like an identity politics bubble. If they were going to put her on SmackDown, they should have had her drop the title to Asuka at WrestleMania. Oh, yes, but Bianca Belair is on SmackDown, and hopefully that doesn't mean they're going to have her automatically steamroll Bianca Belair. That would be really, really nice. And then Becky Lynch is staying on Raw. So, the bummer about this, because the first set of draft picks is supposed to really set the tone for the night, but the only change, yes, the title stuff, the new world title stuff is important, but as far as personnel, the only person that's topped a brand is Bianca Belair, and she's got a title, so we're going to talk about the Women's Championship later on, but there's your first round of picks. Immediately after that, the Usos come out to yell about how badly they need to beat Sami and KO later tonight because it's really important to them in the bloodline, and Roman Reigns, and they gotta get Roman's attention again because he hasn't answered their calls. They're acting like bitchy ex-girlfriends. It's fine. And Sami comes out to bug them some more about why are you dedicating it to them? Why aren't you guys doing this for yourself? Mind games, rah. They yell at each other for a little bit, and that's about it. Butch versus LA Knight was a thing that happened. I like both of these guys, but when you put them on a match graphic together, I was like, what? Because I didn't see the backstage interaction they had last week. He was busting their balls about, oh, what if the draft breaks up the Brawling Brutes? And I think they're actually a single unit on the draft sheet, but we won't find out about that until Monday. It's a beatdown by Butch for most of the match and a lot of the finger stuff, and Kimura with a body scissor, which is always good. Cheap shots on the outside by Knight, and Knight hits this absolutely awesome-looking top rope superplex. Really, really good. Hits the blunt force trauma, and Knight gets a win. Not exactly happy about my boy Butch taking a loss. Rumors speculated about a month ago that WWE was going to go and give him his proper name back, give him the Pete Dunne name back, and those were recycled through the news cycle again this week when we got the news that Riddick Moss has gone back to being Riddick Moss. He's finally not Madcap anymore. So, I don't know. On the one side, I kind of like the Brawling Brutes. It took me a while to warm up to them because it wasn't like I wanted to see Pete Dunne be Pete Dunne. But on the other side of the coin, if they don't actually split and somebody just drafts Pete Dunne to another show and uses that as the catalyst to give him his name back and a little bit more of the bruiserweight aspect, less of the drunken brawling bar buddy aesthetic. I don't know. Either way, I'll be fine with, because in the Brawling Brutes, you can have cool trios matches with a lot of people, and again, it's the faction conversation that keeps bubbling to the surface, which is a lot of fun. LA Knight got a win. I really want them to do something with LA Knight. That's about all I got. I think LA Knight should go to Raw. People are saying that LA Knight and Cameron Grimes from NXT were snubbed because neither one of them were picked tonight, but I don't think either of them were in the pool for... I mean, we're not going to know who's in the NXT pool because it just says select NXT superstars, which makes the surprise, which is good. But, LA Knight didn't get picked tonight because it's not his night, literally. I'm not even trying to make a pun. The match was good. Like I say, really, really odd pairing. It's like a couple years ago when I wrongly gave them the benefit of the doubt, and I thought that Ryback versus Bray Wyatt was going to be an interesting match. It wasn't. This was way better. We get our first set of guest presenters, and it's RVD and Michael Hayes, which is absolutely fine. Cool to see RVD. Woke up this morning to rumors that he's getting looked at by AEW now, so my how the mighty might fall, but it is what it is. Street Profits go to SmackDown. Hey, good stuff. Whatever. It's fine. We'll get to the Street Profits in a second. That's a change. Here's one for Raw that I think is really interesting and gives us a really good insight on what they're going to do on Monday. Imperium, as a unit, drafted to Raw, which means not only do they have a brand new tag team to play with on Raw, they have a brand new singles starring Gunther to play with on Raw, and now they have the Intercontinental Championship on Raw, which means either Austin Theory's getting drafted to SmackDown, or he's losing the title at Backlash. Don't know. Edge gets drafted back to SmackDown. Very, very cool. Saw a lot of really positive posts on Twitter about this, about the original SmackDown 6, etc., which is really... Mentioning the SmackDown 6 is really cool when you consider how good Edge is doing right now and the cool shit that Rey Mysterio is doing with the LWO. I just think it's awesome. I mean, the less said about Chavo Guerrero and Vicky Guerrero right now, the better. But there are the influence and the impact of the original SmackDown 6 is still felt today in wrestling. So that's kind of cool to see. And I'm assuming that the LWO is going to get drafted to SmackDown as well. We don't know. It's fine. But speaking of the LWO and the Street Profits... Oh, sorry. Going on, before I get in the last thing. The funnier thing, and I guess it's funny if you're a kid like me. Riddle was announced to Raw by RVD. Two stoners, ha ha ha, but he's also holding the draft card upside down when he read the name off. So I thought that was a lot of fun. If it was intentional, then cool. If it's not intentional, it's even funnier to me. Get a bit of a showcase. We get the Street Profits and the LWO. Street Profits, LWO, and Ricochet Strowman in a three-way match. As I say, nobody here is really a heel, so it's everybody it's Braun Strowman and 5 other guys that are saying, watch us fly around. They did throw back to last week's SmackDown when he goes to throw Ricochet, and Ricochet looks really, really uncertain. He's like, I've got you, don't worry. He chucks him out of the ring. Absolutely fine. For the most part, like I say, pile of people match, five high flyers and a giant is never going to be a bad time. Towards the end of the match, we get a great back and forth exchange between Joaquin Wilde and Ricochet. Street Profits get the win to punctuate their arrival on SmackDown. No problem with that whatsoever. Honestly, I wouldn't mind the LWO going up against Ricochet and Strowman again, because it's just a fun combination, and I really just want to see both of them work with Ricochet more. Street Profits get the win. I don't think the guys from the LWO lose anything by losing this match, because they're part of a bigger story. And Ricochet and Strowman are set already. Like, if they stay together, they're two really popular guys that are never really going to fall out of favor. And if they split up, then you get Ricochet versus Braun Strowman. It's all good. We get the announcement that because not only Backlash, but also SmackDown are in San Juan, Puerto Rico next week, we are going to see Bad Bunny on SmackDown. I'm sure nothing will come out of that. The next set of guest presenters was Teddy Long, playa, long-time SmackDown general manager, and the guy that winds everybody up just because he still exists and occasionally gets to be on TV, JBL. I'm sorry, I love every time JBL comes out, because you know exactly the type of people that are going to be twisted up by that. And what do we say here on this channel? I love it because it pisses off all the right people. Oh yes. Lashley gets drafted to SmackDown. That's cool, that's decent. I don't know whether I want to see a Lashley-Roman match. I don't know where Lashley would fit into the bloodline scenario. There's all kinds of stuff to play with there. Drew McIntyre goes to Raw. Absolutely fine. The rumors are he's coming back as a heel. Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes for that new belt somewhere down the line sounds great. To SmackDown, and you've got sort of a cool announcement within a cool announcement here. The entirety of the OC. So Mia Yim is in the OC again. Gallows and Anderson are back on TV, and AJ Styles is back from injury. That's 4 or 5 cool announcements in one announcement, and again, we'll get back to that shortly. Gallows and Anderson, apparently, and I don't know how I didn't know this until recently, apparently they had it put into their deals that they don't want to come to television unless there's something for them to do, and they just want to go around on house shows. They were doing stuff with Cody Rhodes for a while, and they just want to go have fun on house shows. And everybody's grumbling about that. And again, I say, first of all, if you were offered that, you'd take it. So shut the fuck up. Second of all, good for them. Like, realistically, good for them. AJ Styles back from injury, awesome. Gallows and Anderson back as a unit is cool. Mia Yim was a little bit directionless without the OC. They sort of stuck her with Candice LeRae and said, you guys are friends now. But again, for SmackDown, you've got a contender for Roman. You've got 2 contenders for Sammy and KO down the line if you want it. And you got one more woman thrown into what is fast becoming a very cool and slightly better looking SmackDown women's division as well. So, like I say, 5 or 6 wins in one pick there. And to end it on kind of a wet fart, The Miz is staying on Raw, which Teddy Long tried to say the A-lister, but he just called him, coming over to Raw, a lister, The Miz. And I'm just like, it's Teddy Long. He can do whatever he wants. He's absolutely fine. I'm surprised he didn't book anything into a tag team match playa, and he didn't book anybody to fight The Undertaker. It's absolutely fine. But hey, much like JBL, if Undertaker had come out on SmackDown this evening, people would have bitched about that too, because suddenly it's cool to shit on The Undertaker. Probably one of the best fictional creations in the history of professional wrestling, but don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. Interesting match here. Zelina Vega versus Sonya Deville. And you guys know I will forever carry a flag for Sonya Deville. I don't think she's ever been used properly. And I don't think she'll ever not be on the show because they know how good she is. She's kind of a female Ziggler, or she's finding herself in a very female Ziggler spot. Vega needed something before her match against Rhea Ripley at Backlash when she gets killed. It was a showcase, and I thought it was going to be a showcase mostly for Vega, but it was, again, another reminder of what Deville can do. Took me till halfway through the match to even notice that Chelsea Green had come out with Sonya Deville, because she made her her entrance during the commercial break. Super respectful. She won the match, obviously, because she needs to. She needs momentum. She's going into the pay-per-view. I am really a fan. I am not a fool. I know that Zelina Vega ain't walking away with that championship unless somebody's completely lost their mind, but I'm really a fan of how fun this Zelina Vega-Rhea Ripley match looks. And I'm a fan of the post-match assault because she did come in, Rhea Ripley, and she did assault Zelina Vega, but she also assaulted Sonya Deville, because there's something different than I'm just trying to weaken my opponent than being the SmackDown Women's Champion on SmackDown and proving herself to be a threat to everybody. Plus, you're never going to get her fully booed as a heel. She's playing a heel, but people love her. People love the Judgment Day. If they split up the Judgment Day, they're fucking idiots. Just putting it out there. But this was a great segment. It didn't last very long. It did what it said on the tin. And after the beatdown from Ripley, Vega managed to get a really, really animated DDT on Rhea Ripley. Which, I mean, let's not let the size disparity between Zelina Vega and Rhea Ripley be the ghost at the feast here. It's absolutely a thing, and it's absolutely why that match is going to rule ass on Backlash. But it did exactly what it said on the tin. It gave Rhea Ripley enough to think about. It gave Vega a win on SmackDown towards that match at Backlash, like we just said. And Sonya Deville did get to show what she can do as well, and Chelsea Green was being a bitchy Karen on the outside, because bitchy Karen's going to bitchy Karen. They are a unit in the Monday pool for the draft that's happening on Monday Night Raw. So they will be going wherever they go as a team, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be to Raw. I mean, I was going to say it's going to be to Raw to harass Adam Pearce, but he runs both shows. It's absolutely fine. Outcome, and I didn't think we were going to get it on the same night, but outcome the OC. Huge pop for AJ Styles, Gallows, Anderson, and Michin. I hate that name, but I guess we have to get used to it. Before they can even say anything, they're cut off by, of all people, the Viking Raiders, and the Viking Raiders stand toe-to-toe with the rest of them. And I thought AJ Styles did a really cool thing here. It's like, just to be sure, you guys are coming down here and staring us down because you want to have a fight, right? Well, there's more of us than there are of you, so why don't I sit back and make it a fair fight? He plops his ass on the turnbuckle so that Gallows, Anderson, and Michin can go up against Eric Ivar and Valhalla. I'm coming back around to it. I really wish it was just Sarah Logan, whatever she's going to go by. But it is what it is. And I thought, okay, if they've structured it this way, it's because they want AJ Styles back on TV, but he can't fight yet. And I'm like, okay, that's fair enough. So bring out a heel team with a smaller amount of people. Maybe he's just not quite ready yet. And then he shut me up completely because he hit a phenomenal forearm on Ivar. So it's absolutely fine. Also, they're going to fight next week. The Gallows and Anderson versus the Viking Raiders is a thing that's going to happen next week. The last guest presenters for the evening are Shawn Michaels and the Road Dogg. They come out to the DX music. It's all good. People on Twitter predictably just groan about the Road Dogg, and they groan about Shawn Michaels because, Jesus Christ, who knows why at this point. The entirety of Damage Control is going to SmackDown. Awesome. Let's build that up even more. It'll be fine. If Rhea Ripley stays on SmackDown with the SmackDown Women's Championship as she should, then Bayley, once she turns face, versus Rhea Ripley is a feud I'd like to see. And yeah, you predicted it. At Backlash, Io Sky should take that belt off of Bianca Belair. Now they're all on SmackDown. I really don't care. But also, Bianca Belair's stale as shit. Oh, yes. Nakamura was was drafted over to Raw, which is hysterical because he's only been back like 3 weeks and he's been targeted by Karrion Kross. Gee, I wonder if Karrion Kross is being drafted to Raw, guys. He was attacked in the back when they tried to get a word from him, and that match that they've been teasing for a couple weeks is going to happen next Friday in Puerto Rico. Absolutely fine. Then, and I love, okay, it's corny as hell, but I love the fact that Shawn Michaels was out there for this and that his heart was absolutely broken by the last 2 picks of the night. And one, coming to SmackDown, and he had to announce it himself, NXT just lost their women's tag team champions because Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are coming to SmackDown. Get the fuck in. Now, in a backstage segment when they were being interviewed, because all the NXT folks were in the back getting interviewed about how they feel about this and that and the next thing, they were confronted by Kacy Catanzaro and Katana Chance, and they're going to fight next Tuesday for those belts, so they're probably going to drop those belts in some kind of respectful match and whatever. But Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, separate or collectively, 2 more great additions. I mean, Alba Fire, but before she got the Alba Fire name, Kaylee Ray was somebody that I wanted to see on the main roster after I saw her in the Mae Young Classic. I mean, the same thing goes for Isla Dawn, but Isla Dawn can do either tag team stuff or single stuff as well. 2 great gets for the SmackDown brand. Nice to finally shine a light on NXT. I really thought when Triple H started off the night, because I know it's not his thing anymore, but he basically started it. I thought Triple H would have given us an NXT call-up, but he didn't, and he left it for Shawn and Road Dogg, which is absolutely fine, because not to be outdone, Raw is getting another NXT champion in the NXT Women's Champion, Indy Hartwell, who just fucked up her foot like a week ago. So I don't know what we're going to do with that. That one, if I was going to make a prediction, I bet they have, because she's injured anyway and she's leaving, I bet she does like the respectful forfeit thing like Paige did back in the day. And that's absolutely fine. You have one champion who, because of multiple circumstances, has to relinquish the title because she's injured, but also because she's not going to be there anymore in Indy Hartwell. And you have Alba Fire and Isla Dawn put over Kacy Catanzaro and Kaden Carter on their way out the door, and you establish new champions that way. It's absolutely fine, but again, it's the whole like championships are all moving around thing that I'm keeping an eye on tonight. Because here's the thing. If Rhea Ripley gets drafted to Raw with the SmackDown title, and Bianca Belair gets drafted to SmackDown with the Raw title, and Indy Hartwell has been drafted to Raw with the NXT Women's Championship, are we going to get a 3-way version of the belt swap that happened a couple years ago that had everybody absolutely in hysterics and, oh my god, it was the worst thing ever, except it wasn't. It was like 5 minutes of your TV time on a 3-hour show a couple of years ago, and you might need to get over it. What else we need to get over is that the main event was not nearly as great as it could have been. The prestige of the WrestleMania main event rematch, which is how this was advertised, was absolutely overshadowed by the draft. And I know the draft is a totally fake thing, but it's just pieces on a chessboard. Do I want to see that piece fight that piece? Yes. Yes, I do. Pieces on a chessboard. Do I want to see that piece face that piece? Yes. Yes, I absolutely do. If we get, like, Randy Orton comes back from injury on Raw, or on the Raw portion of the draft, do I want to see Randy Orton try to take that belt off Cody after Cody wins it? Yes. Yes, I do. So if you give me some shit that I like, do I want to see a rematch between Edge and Roman Reigns from WrestleMania 2 years ago? Yes, I do. Let's just do it. You've got all the factions and all that shit, and they're just being tweaked slightly, some of them. One of the things I do like is, much like the Bloodline was not all listed together, you had the 3 male members of the Judgment Day as a unit and Rhea Ripley on her own, so at least teasing that might be a thing, and that's really unfortunate, because if anything, if you were going to split them down the middle, I would have put Dominic with Rhea Ripley because he's part of her act. But anyways, Sami, KO, and the Usos had a match throughout the night. Paul Heyman had basically been teasing that Roman Reigns wants Solo Sikoa to turn on the Usos if they don't get the job done tonight. And then it kind of falls apart because they have to promote the 3-on-3 match that they're doing at Backlash, which also includes Riddle. So when Solo ran down to do, I'm doing in tight air quotes, whatever he was going to do, he was cut off by Riddle, and they brawled through the back, and the Usos lost because, the Usos lost, and the Usos lost and looked terrified, and Solo was in the crowd realizing that he hadn't stopped it from happening and looked kind of terrified, and Sami and KO stand tall. If they had won them back, it would be a different conversation. It would be a longer conversation. Because on the one hand, you would say, hey, we got our tag team titles back. And then you've got the other thing of, oh, you didn't even do that for yourself. You did it for, your boss, your cousin, because you're still his bitches and whatever, and you can play with that. And then also the serious side comes into it, is where if they get stripped of the titles right away, then it's because of the Saudi shows and how horrible the Saudi shows are and who Sami and KO are. And it's an exhausting conversation that I don't want to have. So Sami and KO just retain. Fine. I don't know who they're going to defend against at Backlash. They are doing a good job of shuffling the tag teams around. I don't know if they're going to break the titles like they broke the world title. That'll be another thing to see sort of after the draft. And I shouldn't say this because these 4 guys are amazing and you get the match from them that you expect, but it's hard to get up for the match when all the other moving parts are going around, and I'm like doing the weird nerd fan fantasy booking stuff with all these new pieces, all these new toys on the table, and these guys are just having a match that I've already seen, quite frankly, which is super shitty because it was good and I'm not giving it the credit it deserves. So I'm an asshole, but most of you already know that. Anyway, so that was the end of SmackDown. They then did the supplemental draft on the SmackDown Lowdown, which I watched today. I'm recording this Saturday afternoon. And first of all, the SmackDown Lowdown is a bullshit show. Whatever it was that Renee Young and Daniel Bryan used to do, like the SmackDown recap or whatever it was, that was like right after SmackDown, this is not that. This is some like CGI studio garbage highlight reel nonsense that I'm never going to watch again, probably until there's another draft. Their viewership probably doubled this week because on SmackDown they said, oh, go check out the SmackDown Lowdown for more draft picks. I've not even heard it mentioned in, seems like forever. So let's talk about the things that happened on the supplemental draft. The Viking Raiders and Valhalla got drafted to Raw. So that thing with them in the OC was a one and done, just so that they could have somebody to beat up. Much like the Profits, so that they could say, SmackDown, we're arriving. I should have said it before. AJ Styles did grab the mic after they beat up the Viking Raiders and said, hey, SmackDown roster, we're just getting started. Which is basically what that was for. Dexter Lumis stays on Raw. Makes sense. All the people that he's connected to are on Raw. Gargano's there. Candice LeRae is there. Indy Hartwell is now there. I'm guessing if Tommaso Ciampa ever comes back, he'll be there as well, so they'll have their own little group. Candice LeRae, as I just said, is staying on Raw. The Maximum Male Models are going to Raw. That'll just be fun. Now, another rumored call-up from NXT is Pretty Deadly, and they pretty much have to put Pretty Deadly on SmackDown if that's the case, because all kinds of wrong people with all kinds of really, really, hateful, belligerent opinions are going to say a whole lot if you throw the Maximum Male Models and Pretty Deadly on one show. And I'm a sarcastic asshole, but I'm not that kind of sarcastic asshole. So for the good of both teams, just keep them You gotta keep them separated. I'm never gonna do that again, I promise. Now, here's an interesting thing. They go on to say that MVP, in his role as Omos's manager, has gotten him free agent status, which means Omos can show up on either show. They've done this before. They've done it with super big names before, though, like Brock Lesnar, John Cena, etc. But I think that's kind of cool, because Omos is basically the guy you face before the end of level boss. So if you've got somebody that you really want to pump up in right before they face Cody for the title, for example. I keep using Cody as the example because we know they're going to give him the title. It's Cody Rhodes. Oh, we must all bow down to Cody Rhodes. But say, I don't know, say Ricochet was getting a shot at the world title. You want to have him have one last big accomplishment before he goes and, fulfills his title aspirations. Well, we need him to beat a giant. Let's put him in a match with Omos. I think they want to have that for both shows. And a lot of weird conversation happens with Braun Strowman when we put him in that role, because again, people are weird on Twitter. So do it with Omos and it's fine. And I don't think he's going to be in a championship picture anytime soon. No offense to him. He's there to be the big guy. Grr, I'm a big guy. Look how scary I am, etc. And he's good at that. And MVP and him working together is fantastic. So all good. Now, the opposite side of the coin, the other three guys that are also being labeled as free agents are a very different scenario, because you've got Mustafa Ali, Dolph Ziggler, and Von Wagner. Von Wagner's an interesting one. I think we're supposed to take from that the pool, out of the pool of people from NXT that were available for call-ups that night, Von Wagner was the only one not chosen, which kind of makes him look like a loser, but it's fucking Von Wagner. Ali and Ziggler are sort of in a similar thing. Ziggler's always in this, gets these stories a lot where, last picked for soccer practice type thing. But here's my thing, right? If they weren't picked prominently in the draft, then that means nobody really has anything for them. Then NXT is losing a bunch of people in this draft. The ones that are not drafted, say that NXT drafted them. Send Ali, send Ziggler back to NXT, not because, I think they should be the NXT champion like they've already done with Ziggler, but there's so many people on the NXT roster, on the NXT brand, that could benefit from a match with Ali. Imagine like Axiom versus Ali. Imagine Nathan Frazier versus Ali. Imagine Carmelo Hayes getting the rub off Dolph Ziggler. So when you get to this, and, Raw and SmackDown sort of trade people back and forth, and then they grab a couple from NXT, leaving a void. Nature abhors a void, as they say. So whoever the one, and if it's only going to be one or two people, whoever the one or two people that you don't draft because you clearly don't have a plan for them, send them to NXT. That's my thing. I'm not saying everybody should all of a sudden, change their minds on NXT, watch NXT, etc. I'm just saying it would be an idea. After all the free agent stuff, we find out that Lacey Evans is staying on SmackDown. Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville are on Raw. I kind of think this is cool because Sonya's been on SmackDown for a while, but Chelsea Green, since her arrival has been like the story of her pissing off Adam Pearce, she's showed up on both shows anyway. We never, unless we looked at the roster, which I didn't do, I'll put my hands up in the air and admit that, but I don't think they ever nailed her down to a brand. So it solidifies them on Raw, which is absolutely fine. Natalya is on Raw. I don't know whether that means she's staying on Raw or went to Raw. Actually, I do. She was on SmackDown recently, teaming with Shotzi for reasons. So that is a change, technically. Apollo Crews, I guess, is done with his time in NXT because they drafted him back up to Raw. Zoe Stark is coming to Raw. That's fucking awesome. I love Zoe Stark. I don't think she'll be in a title picture right away, and I think if Nikita Lyons wasn't injured, then I don't think she would have been called up yet because they never really finished that story. Zoe Stark coming up to the main roster is awesome. And the last one, say it with me, say it loud, say it proud, will piss off all the right people, is JD McDonough going to Raw. Now here's my thing. Everybody hates it. I get it. He's the, the super scientific, I really like hurting people guy. But he's also fantastic in the ring. He also has ties to Finn Balor, and if they're gonna put dents in the Judgment Day, and if Finn Balor and Damian Priest were both teasing new members to the Judgment Day in 2023, JD McDonough, I wish he could go back to his old name because Jordan Devlin sounds better. He is literally like mini sadistic Finn Balor. So, but there's a lot of cool shit here. Oh, and also Hit Row got drafted to SmackDown, or they're drafted to stay on SmackDown. I didn't really say anything because, yeah, they don't do much with Hit Row. I'm just putting it out there. Just putting it out there for what it is. I think they're a lot of fun. WWE could put them on TV more. It's absolutely fine. I think the big takeaway here is where the titles have gone. You know, the Raw title on SmackDown, the Intercontinental title going to Raw, Roman staying on SmackDown, meaning we get a new title on Raw. What are we going to do with the NXT titles, etc.? Factions are a thing. We're potentially splitting the Bloodline. We're potentially splitting Judgment Day. They've already said the LWO are going to be drafted as all 5 people, like all of Legado plus Rey plus Zelina Vega. Imperium got drafted as a unit, and the NXT stuff is cool. Like, the NXT stuff is really cool. Alba Fire, Ela Dawn, Indy Hartwell, Zoe Stark, JD McDonough. I mean, I guess you count Apollo because he went back down to NXT, but he was already a main roster guy. The other big story for me, the other big, like, happy highlight to pull out of the whole thing is the announcement of the OC. I think that was probably the highlight of the night, just because, as I said before, like, I'm going to hit it over the head again. There's only so many ways I can say it. One draft pick in a fictional draft that people don't really want to say means anything anyway, meant so many things. Meant another tag team in your tag team division, meant another main eventer in your main event scene, meant another woman in your women's division, meant another trio if you want to have trios matches, meant another faction if you want to do faction warfare. Tell me, because AJ Styles brought in the OC, storyline-wise, to fight Finn Balor, now they can have a proper 4-on-4. They did it before, I know that. They're probably going to be on different brands, I know that. But they've created, with the choices that they've made so far, and the choices that they've still got left to make on Monday, I can't say it any other way. There's lots of fun pieces on the board. Will they fuck some of it up? Absolutely. Are people going to be mad that their guy Cody Rhodes just became the champion of the flagship show because people are strange and you have to be angry about something? Yes, probably. I had a lot of fun with this. The matches on this show were absolutely irrelevant. Sorry to Zelina Vega and Sonya Deville and the Usos and KO and Sammy and Butch and LA Knight and the 3 tag teams that had a match tonight. The matches on tonight were irrelevant. Here's a little spoiler for you. The matches on Monday are going to be irrelevant as well. Oh, yes. Anyways, I've rambled on quite long enough. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there. Talk down there. Start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Let me know what you think about this draft and what do you think is going to happen on Monday. Until next time, I'm tagging out. Bye, guys.